This is a Geek History of Time,
where we connect nerdery to the real world. I'm Ed Blaylock. I'm a world history teacher, a new father of a just over 1-year-old son, and I have been a nerd as long as I can remember. I was exposed to Tolkien at far too young an age, and it warped me forever. Damien, how about you?
I'm Damien Harmony. I'm a Latin teacher, formerly a social science teacher at a local high school here in Sacramento. I have 2 children. My daughter, who has taught herself Draconic alphabet recently for an adventure that we had.
Raising them right.
Yes, a son who's super into trains. And I've been a geek for quite some time. I remember my dad showing me paintings of Conan the Barbarian from the original book series.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it coincided with a day that I was really, really sick, so he thought he made me throw up with how scary the ape beast was. It wasn't. So it's been a while.
It was just influenza.
Yeah. Highly influenza of my youth, yes.
God damn it.
So, Ed, we have a guest here today with us.
Yes, we do, sir. It's a pleasure to meet you. For our audience at home, can you let them know who you are?
I will do that. My name is Rex Stem. I am a Latin professor, which is how I came to know Damien Harmony. And I do not have the sort of nerd credentials that you two have, but I will try to help with the Roman history and the Latin background.
Okay.
Excellent.
Now, you two have a lot of notes in front of you here.
Yeah.
And you have what looks like some kind of a dissertation here. I see something about Caesar's achievement in the Gallic War. So I'm fascinated. I want to know what you got to say about this. Let's jump right in.
Yeah, well, I realized that in a lot of our episodes, it's a lot of modern history.
Yes.
It's the Damien Thinks 9/11 Ruined Everything channel as well.
Well, it kind of did.
Yeah, well as the
and,
Ed Thinks That British Parliamentary History is the Most Important Thing channel, and also
Isn't
Giant
it?
Robots. So I figured let's go back a little bit further and see if we can...
you're leaving Hiroshima out entirely, especially when you talk about the giant robots. But yes, going a little farther back in history is probably called for.
Get into some classics.
Yeah.
So, I realized I was not necessarily equal to the task unless I brought in a bona fide expert.
Okay, Getter Robo, by the way, is a classic. I just want to make sure everybody understands that.
So we should refer to the Greco-Roman classics?
So
we can distinguish our classics from your classics?
Capital C classics.
Yes.
Understood. Sorry.
Not to be confused with Vlasics, which is pickle talk.
Pick is
very different.
Really, very bitter.
Yeah, it's my bread and butter, but
Yeah,
really,
nice,
thank you.
Nice.
So,
You dillied.
you know what? I'm going to let that go. Well, I may, son, because it's a little jarring. So, Rex, save us from me.
Okay, so we're going to talk about Julius Caesar because it's the Ides of March. And so, but that's jumping ahead because we all know the Ides of March because he gets killed on the Ides of March. And we're going to talk about how
Spoiler
how Caesar came to be Caesar. And that is that when he was consul, chief magistrate in the Roman Republic, he got himself assigned to govern the provinces of what the Romans would call Cisalpine Gaul and Transalpine Gaul, which we would call Northern Italy and France.
Yeah.
Okay. And at that point, Northern Italy is effectively conquered by the Romans, but they're not yet sort of fully incorporated into Italy.
They hadn't, at that point, integrated really into Roman society.
Yeah, well, they probably had
Okay.
in terms of their culture, but politically they were not allowed
still
to.
Okay.
Though Caesar will make them full citizens before he meets
Okay.
the Ides of March.
Okay.
To the point where there is graffiti in Rome saying a good idea would be to not show a new senator where the Curia is because they didn't want Gallic senators coming in to the Curia.
Wow.
Yeah. And they even said Caesar conquered these Nancy boys who wear these girlish pants, and they pulled down their pants and put on the togas. So there's all kinds of really fun. Yeah.
And this is Milan we're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, these are fully Italian places now.
Yeah.
The idea that there could be that much discrepancy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm curious, just to now ask, but when we're talking about Transalpine Gaul in this period, how much? By the time Caesar gets up there, I mean, I know about Vercingetorix, and I know those stories.
That's all at the end.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
7
all right.
years later from what we're talking
all right.
about.
Well, okay, but at the beginning of his time, based on what I know comes later, I'm going to guess that the Gallic tribes there were still culturally and presumably linguistically entirely still Celtic.
Entirely.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And the Roman presence is really only the French Riviera, what we would call the Riviera.
Okay.
Just along the coast in order to go to Spain, because Rome had already taken Spain from Carthage.
Yeah.
And they wanted to connect their empire.
Okay.
So there's a sliver of land on the coast, and there's all that France up there that's
Plus Britain.
just sort of unknown. And Britain.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. But for some reason, the Rhine River had already been decided as the border between Gaul and Germany.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Caesar's only interested in everything from the Rhine River to the Atlantic Ocean.
Okay.
Only.
Yeah.
Only that
Only.
much. But
Yeah, that's all.
he
You know,
did
the
he did
greatest-
recognize that
yeah.
there was
Yeah,
a
the largest plain in continental Europe.
Yeah,
Yes.
and
Just
he'd cross it sometimes to bop them on the nose and keep them back.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
But that was or to chase someone down.
Yeah.
That was about
Okay.
it.
Oh yeah. We have we think a richer understanding
Yeah.
of the German threat than
Really?
Caesar lets on.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. Well, all right. So I'll
Okay, but-
stop interrupting.
But
You
we
guys-
have to get him to Germany.
Yeah.
So when Caesar starts out, so he when he's consul, he gets himself a command that's 5 years long.
Okay.
And if you're a Roman and you know you have 5 years, then you can go pick a huge fight because
yeah.
you're going to have all this time to go and deal with it. So it looks like Caesar is sort of eager to find somebody to go and mess with. And Caesar hears that the Swiss, the Helvetians, or the Helvetii, have decided to migrate en masse, all of them. He later says there were 368,000 of them that decided to leave what we would call Switzerland and migrate down to the Roman part of Gaul and then back up towards the coast to some nice farmland where they could be more expansive. And to do that, they're going to have to cross Roman territories, and Caesar says, no, you can't do that.
They had two possible routes. One was through a mountain pass. I mean, it's Switzerland.
Yeah.
The reason they never got invaded by the Nazis.
Yeah.
Well, one of the reasons. But they had to pass through a mountain pass that was so small that only a ox and a cart could get through. And then some people on the overhanging cliff with good arrows could stall everything. Because not only do you kill that thing, it doesn't disappear like in video games. It's blocked everything.
Yeah.
And so you just keep raining down arrows.
That's part of the reason. That's part of the reason the Battle of the Hot Gates was what it was.
Exactly.
So previously.
And Caesar talks about that. He says so they had that, or they could go through our territory, which is a much wider place to ford. And so you can just kind of guess what a population who, by the way, is leaving an area that's I want to say 240 by 180 miles.
I believe that's exactly right.
Yep. That small an area, and they're all leaving, like he said.
So, okay, you say he had this figure of 368?
68,000 people,
Yeah.
so he claims.
Okay, now, do we have any kind of archaeological evidence, any kind of other corroborating evidence of whether his numbers are inflated? Do we know anything about where he's getting these figures? Is this Rush Limbaugh just pulling a number out of his butt?
He says that when he defeats these people, he finds in their luggage, effectively, a census of everyone who had left on the expedition. And then he offers some of those numbers, and they total up to 368,000. So we have to... He's the only source.
Okay, we got it. Okay,
and we have to allow for that.
Because I find that interesting because the Helvetii were a Celtic tribe, and I know that outside of some of the Celtic tribes developing an Ogham system, they didn't actually have a real system of writing, as far as I know.
This was in Greek characters.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay.
He says,
okay, all right.
yes.
All right. So they were using Greek to write. Okay, all right.
Because actually, the city of Marseille had long been a Greek colony well before the Romans ever got there. So there's some saturation of Greek culture in Gaul that the Romans then piggyback.
To the point where they have kind of reimagined Greek gods. And they worship them in a slightly different way.
Yeah.
But which will come into play a little bit later, honestly. But they fully have adopted some trappings of like Greek cosmology.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so then we have to get into the interesting part. So there's some. On the one hand, this is a very easy account to understand. You have this whole people that wants to migrate through Roman territory, and Caesar just assumes you're going to come and you're going to take stuff and you're going to kill people and you're going to pillage, and I'm not going to let you do that.
Yeah.
And they initially resist, and then they make a deal with the neighboring tribe, and they're going to go a different way, but they disobey what Caesar wants them to do, and so he rushes back to Italy and recruits 2-3 more legions. I think at least 2.
He levies one in the area, and he's coming up with another.
And then he marches back and chases them down, and there's some chasing, and then eventually they end up fighting, and it's a decisive victory for him.
Okay.
So that's the sort of easy way to understand this story.
Okay.
But there are some details in this story which he acknowledges, but he doesn't actually really explain. And those are the things that sort of caught the eye of Damien and me.
Okay.
For example, when he sets up the reason that they're going to migrate, he says that there was a chieftain named Orgetorix, and he had this ambition that the Helvetian people should be the number one people of Gaul. And so he convinces everybody to migrate. They say, we're going to spend 2 years getting ready, and then we're going to go. And Orgetorix goes and makes alliances with the neighboring peoples. But
Forms his own triumvirate.
he really does.
Yeah, he does.
Okay.
Complete with marrying his daughter to someone else.
Really?
Yeah, and Caesar kind of...
Like the parallel is that...
Yeah, he confesses by accusation there.
Oh, huh. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Diviciacus and Catamontolitus, I think, specifically.
Wow.
Yeah.
All the names.
Yep.
Nice.
Okay, but the
Yeah.
point I'm trying to get to is then it's realized though that Orgetorix is making this triumvirate without telling the people what's going on. So his own magistrates rise up against him. He is put on trial. He escapes, but is found dead.
Okay.
Suicide is suspected, says Caesar. And then you'd think
Fell on his own sword 6 times.
Backwards.
Backwards,
Oddly
oddly enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but you'd think if this conspiratorial leader had a plan to get everybody to migrate, then once you realize the leader is conspiratorial and is a fraud, then surely you're going to abandon the plan to migrate. That would be the reasonable thing to do.
You'd think.
And yet, Caesar says, even though he was dead, the Helvetians decided to carry through with their plan anyway.
Recruiting other tribes, by the way.
Yeah. So then you begin to realize, well, maybe there's some other motivation here that the Helvetians need to leave this territory, and it isn't the kind of bellicose ambition that Caesar is attributing to them. Moreover, Caesar says that when they leave, they burn all of their towns and villages and all of their freestanding buildings.
Yeah.
Now, he says they do that so that they don't have a temptation to give up on the whole expedition and go back home.
Right.
And the only sure way to convince them that they have to go through with what they say is to burn everything so that there's nothing to go home to. But again, to Damien and I, this seems like the sort of clue that there might be some other reason why they need to leave, and they need to leave in this sort of
En masse. It feels like more than just a migration.
yeah.
Now, I also want to point out that Caesar is writing these dispatches back to the Senate, partly as a, here's why I'm here and why you need me here, but he also knows that they're being read in the forum. And so he's writing it, I call it kind of the prism effect. He's writing it for one audience, knowing another audience will hear it.
Okay.
And so everything he writes has to be in terms that the people will love him for, and that the Senate will realize his necessity for. That's happening.
Okay.
And I'm hoping I'm not stepping on any of your thunder.
No,
on that.
not at
Yeah.
all. No, because that explains sort of the audience that he's trying to reach, but also it limits him because he doesn't necessarily want to make everything known to everybody.
Right.
Okay.
To go back to the number of 368,000 that he
Yeah.
says left on this expedition, at the end of the expedition, when he finds these things, and then he does his own census, and he finds there's only 110,000 left. So that means 258,000 people have disappeared. And that's hard to... I mean, some people who think the worst of Caesar say this is a genocidal maniac who just killed 250,000 people and doesn't even sweat over that. But Caesar only describes one battle with the Helvetians,
Right.
and that battle has a fairly limited form, and it's not the sort of thing where you'd expect 250,000 people to be.
Well, yeah, any kind of battle in the classical period, you're not. I mean, with a couple of notable, massive, a couple of battles that are notable for being as massive as they were, and were commented on at the time as being these huge apocalyptic things. That is a casualty figure that beggars the imagination.
Well, and even the massive ones are 50,000.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
Battle of Cannae, I'm thinking.
Yeah, so this. So there's a
Times
there's a
5.
scalar. Yeah, Cannae
Yeah.
quintupled.
Yeah.
So there's a huge scalar issue here.
Yes.
Okay, I can see that.
Or something is causing the Helvetians to die.
Yeah.
That is in addition to whatever Caesar is doing. And
Okay.
perhaps this is related to the fact that they had to burn all their possessions before they left.
Okay.
These are the sorts of clues that if you look for them, start to form a pattern, we think.
Okay.
And then after this expedition,
A pattern that the Senate would see, by the way. They would absolutely catch. But the common folk would be like, hey, go slaughter them. That's great. Better over there than over here.
Well, yeah. Make Rome great again.
Yes.
Yeah. Build the wall.
yeah.
Build 2 walls.
Build multiple walls. You're getting ahead.
Sorry. Yes. 7 years later.
Back to Vercingetorix.
All right.
Okay, so after the Helvetian campaign,
Yeah.
all the Gallic states from nearby come to congratulate Caesar on his victory and sort of try to figure out what's going to happen next for them in Gaul. And they ask for a private meeting with Caesar. It isn't going to be a regular Gallic Congress, and they swear oaths that they can't tell anybody about what happens at this meeting unless they've been officially chosen by their people to come and represent their people at this meeting. And then we learn, and so as Caesar tells it, this is when Caesar learns that there is this other threat in Gaul. And that comes from the Germans, who are led by a king named Ariovistus. And Ariovistus has come across the Rhine initially because he was invited, or that's what he's going to say later, and is now so encroaching upon, well, he starts in the lands of the Sequani, who were next to the lands of the
Helvetii.
Helvetii. Yeah. And then next to that are the Aedui, who are the chief allies of Caesar and Gaul.
Okay.
And so these three peoples are all getting pressed by the presence of Ariovistus the German.
Okay.
And everyone...
For reference, this is like northern Switzerland,
Yeah.
Austria, that area.
Yeah.
Okay. When we say the German, where are we talking? Ancestor of Ostrogoth, Visigoth, Gothic? Are we talking Gothic? Are we talking?
Don't know.
No
They were
idea.
migratory as heck by this point.
well,
so they hadn't settled.
Okay.
Germanus
Yeah.
Yeah,
is,
okay,
is
yeah,
the
it's
Latin.
Yeah, okay.
There's there.
What that means
those
at that
those
time.
guys up
Across
in,
the river.
Yeah.
those guys up in the woods.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. The hill people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The woods
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
okay.
Woods. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The hill people. The hill people are my people.
Build a wall.
I had to, didn't I?
Okay, so everyone is terrified of this Ariovistus, just terrified, and they talk about how anybody who crosses him is tortured, and that he is a barbaric, and that he is a hothead, and that he is extreme, and they have given hostages to him because that was required, because he has defeated them in battle once, and they fear for the lives of their hostages, and they're trying to get Caesar to intervene to get them back. But if
Okay.
Ariovistus hears of this, they're afraid he's going to kill all the hostages. They say he's going to put them to the greatest tortures.
Wow.
This
So
is their language.
okay, this guy sounds kind of like the earlier coming of Attila the Hun.
Yeah.
Oh, it's actually more serious than that.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right.
The climax of this scene is when there's one group at this conference of Gauls, and they don't even say
right.
anything. They just look down and they're absolutely mute. And Caesar goes over to them and he says, why are you not speaking? Why you're not involved in this? And they just refuse to talk to him. And then the other delegates explained that this was the group that initially had Ariovistus come to them, and they are so terrified of him that they won't even complain because they feel that he is present even when he's not there. And so somehow he's going to hear what they have to say, and they refuse to even acknowledge that this is being talked about.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you can see that
Okay.
there's something really unsettling going on here.
Okay.
And the people closest to it are the most afraid of it, and then as you move out from that center, it's a little less frightening, but it's pretty frightening.
It's a radiation of fear.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And Caesar has sort of only realized that the enemy in Gaul that he's really got to deal with was not the Helvetians, and that there's this other figure that now has to become the center of his attention.
Okay.
And so his first year in Gaul, you have the sudden pivot from the Helvetians, which was a nice campaign that ended, to the real threat, which turns out to be Ariovistus, the German. The next interesting part is when the Romans, so he then marches toward Ariovistus, and the men begin to get word of what the Germans are like. And they are told that the Gauls who tried to fight the Germans were just terrified. They couldn't handle the look in their eyes.
Yeah.
The acies oculorum, which is this fantastic phrase in Latin.
Yeah.
It means literally the battle line of the eyes.
I love that.
So,
That's like, wow.
Cultivate that look.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
power.
Yeah.
That is.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
That's Bradbury kind of language.
It really
that's
is.
amazing.
it's
All right.
fantastic. It's fantastic. And this is how you know that this is not just a normal enemy, right? There is something that animates these people that terrifies those who see them. And so the army effectively mutinies and says, this sounds horrible. We cannot go fight these people. And we're going to stop right here.
And it's especially his centurions, right?
Yeah.
They're sticking up for their men, saying, "No more. No, we're stopping, boss.
No mas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're
Es
done.
todo
Yeah,
aquí.
yeah,
Yeah,
we're
okay.
done.
All
Yeah."
right.
And then Caesar has to come out and give a big speech and try to save the day. And he does eventually persuade them, favors the 10th Legion, sort of uses the 10th Legion's loyalty against the rest, and convinces them to keep marching.
Yes.
Okay.
But it's one of the few times in the whole narrative of Caesar's campaigns that his troops say no to him. And
Okay.
he has to persuade them to go forward.
Yeah.
So again, these are the accumulating clues that this enemy is something that you would not expect Caesar to go and find at the
Okay.
end of the story. And then there's some back and forthing, and there's some movement, and
Skirmishing.
eventually it turns out that the German forces want to wait until the full moon to battle. And,
That's right.
And when Caesar learns this, then he realizes he's got to sort of speed things up so that he can force a fight before the full moon. And there's the battle scene itself is brilliantly
Now was
described.
this for like Germanic pagan or religious reasons?
That's what he
That's
says.
what's being reported. Yeah,
Yes.
that Ariovistus, despite the fact that he's the head chieftain, he listens to these cronish type women, and he keeps going back to them, according to Caesar. Keeps going back to them and saying, "Can I do it now? No, it doesn't look good. How about now? No, it doesn't look good. How about now? Wait till the full moon, and then maybe." And in the meantime, he's trying to stall with Caesar. At one point, they have a parley. And if I'm jumping ahead on that,
No, go ahead.
they have this wonderful parlay where he essentially Ariovistus knows that Romans don't do the horse thing; they hire the horse thing. So he says, "I will parlay with you, and we will meet as equals." And Caesar's like, "No, that ain't gonna happen." But eventually they go back and forth. He says, "We'll meet as equals on horses. I will meet with you if you are on horses." And so Caesar turns to the 10th Legion and is like, "You're all on horses now." And they turn to him and they say, "We've been promoted."
Well, because that made them equities.
Right.
Is that
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
And so they have this joke in the middle of this whole story. It's a wonderful, wonderful little bit. And so there's a lot of back and forthing until, but ultimately it is like, are we going to fight under the full moon or not? So
Yeah.
I just love that story too much to leave it out.
Okay, so as we approach the climax of this campaign, I think it's worth sort of pulling together the clues now that we have talked about. So we have an enemy that has the battle line of their eyes that the Romans don't even want to look at, right? They break down and weep, and they don't want to fight, and they're ready to mutiny against Caesar.
And these
so
men
so
are
far as weeping.
Oh, so far
yeah.
as weeping. They're writing their wills. They think it's over.
And weeping back then was not like it is now. Like, it was
Oh, yeah.
a welcome thing. It was a fine thing to do. It's not a big. It's not a sign of sheer cowardice. It's a sign of passion.
But these are still hard. These are veteran troops.
Yeah.
We're talking
Who are actually complaining not just about their eyes, but how huge these guys are.
Oh yeah, no, I've heard the stories of you talk about Mediterraneans at this time being my height,
right,
5'6". I'm a short guy. You guys haven't been able to figure that out, listening to us, but I am. Whereas
the Germani are my height or higher
or taller. They're 6 feet plus.
Yeah.
And it'd be terrifying.
Yeah,
in an age where combat was all muscle powered, that's a big deal.
Okay, but this is where we're going at. There's more going on here than just muscle power.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because this is the kind of enemy that makes men weep. And this is what the Gauls did when they came to Caesar to explain to him what this enemy was like. They were all weeping at his feet, saying, please help us, right? And the Sequani, wouldn't even speak, wouldn't even acknowledge that this enemy was out there. And the Helvetians clearly are trying to flee this enemy, and they are going to flee so completely that they are going to burn all of their villages and towns and all of their buildings, right? They're going to leave nothing behind. And yet, 250,000 of them die on this campaign. So something is out there that is extraordinarily terrifying that would cause entire peoples to flee from it.
Okay.
To burn their homes in fleeing from it.
Okay.
Yes. So what could that enemy be? Like, what enemy fits the clues that we have been describing? Because it can't just be a big German guy, Conan the Barbarian figure, right? Caesar fights lots of people like that, and he never has this sort of inset of clues that suggest something that is truly different.
Okay.
And so Damien and I have come to the conclusion that the best explanation that fits all of these clues and explains what's going to come later in the story, which we're happy to walk you through, is that Ariovistus must be a zombie king. And he is leading a zombie horde of the undead across the Rhine into Gaul and threatening Western civilization. And Caesar has to stop it.
Okay, wait. Back up.
Okay.
Back up. Okay. So, you had me.
Ed has taken off his glasses and is rubbing his temples.
And my eyes.
We're working from the evidence, Ed.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I get that, but are we sure he couldn't be a Lich King?
Oh,
interestingly enough,
since he's not mindless.
Right.
Obviously, he's scheming.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have to admit my biggest problem with that theory is I can certainly understand the horde that he's driving could be a horde of the undead. Based, I mean, the burning of the villages is pretty evocative. I was kind of thinking in that direction myself, from the beginning. But
I like that you're not surprised at the zombie part.
Well,
just the logistics of it.
I mean, it had to be.
Right. No, I'm going to go right there with you. So part of the strategy here is that Caesar is trying to reveal things gradually.
Okay.
And he's not just going to come out and say, hello, Senate at Rome, we're dealing with the Lich King. He can't just write that out.
Oh, yeah, no. Okay,
what he's doing is setting up the horde of the undead for the
okay, all right, okay. All right, so first...
And then we have to deal with, what kind of king is he really? Mm-hmm. Okay. And what sort of powers does he have? But Caesar hasn't yet, I think, fully understood the situation.
Okay.
But he wants to bring the reader in... credibly, step by step, so you can understand the scale. What is going on
of the necromancy involved here.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Right. And the last clue comes in the final battle when the armies finally meet up, and Caesar describes how the Romans, the Germans, that was scare quotes for you, the Germans sort of form up this wall of shields, and the Romans leap up and rip away the shields from above and stab downward in order to kill the Germans, which really sounds like an efficient beheading
headshot
strategy.
Well,
Because that's the one way you can stop the forward advance.
well, yeah. As a sword geek, that does kind of make sense. Also, I find it an interesting departure from what we know about normal Roman tactics, which would have been
Yes.
to form the testudo and march forward and stabby,
Right.
stabby,
Or
stabby.
make the saw teeth and,
Yeah.
and just go forward and meat grinder it.
Yeah.
That won't work if your enemy is so huge and so inured to pain that the only thing...
Implacable.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that the only thing to do it would have to be a
shot to
running...
the head. Yeah.
Yeah, leaping jump to stab them in the head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right.
And again, it's
All right.
because you understand what a normal battle would go like, how it
Yeah.
would be described, that you realize that this description suggests that this is not the enemy that the normal reader might
Yeah.
realize.
Okay.
The problem, though, is
Uh-huh.
that even when the Romans turn this German army and they flee all the way back to the Rhine, a lot of them are killed. I don't know if he gives a number, but a tremendous amount of them are killed. But Ariovistus himself escapes with a few others across the Rhine back into Germany.
Okay.
And so Caesar, thinking that he was going to go and eliminate this threat, now realizes that the origin of the whole horde is now back across the Rhine in a place that he can't get to, and potentially all of Gaul, and then ultimately potentially Italy, is at risk from what this king might do.
Okay.
And Caesar then commits pretty openly, I think, to staying in Gaul as long as he has to deal with this threat.
Okay.
And so the next year he goes north to Belgium, and the third year he goes down to
Along the coast. Attacks the
and
seagulls.
the southwest part of Gaul. But he doesn't. But those are just normal.
Good day, sir.
Those seagulls are just normal opponents.
Yes.
And it's just military campaigning again.
Yeah.
And you have regular style narrative, and you realize that this is different than it was in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then, fourth year of the war, new German horde comes across the Rhine. Caesar rushes over, captures their leaders, he slaughters everybody. He kind of admits that he slaughtered everybody without really following the normal protocols for treaties and alliances, because he thinks this is the return of the zombie horde. I'm not going to treat them like I would a regular foreign power.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
But it turns out that they were just men, and he killed a lot of them, and he still doesn't know what to do. So then he actually builds a bridge across the Rhine that he describes in loving detail.
Oh, yeah.
It's the famous
remember,
10-day bridge.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I remember
And he
hearing about
spends
that.
a couple of weeks over in Germany, and no one comes. Like, he's over there, he's making a target of himself. No one comes. So he gives up, comes back across the Rhine, tears up the bridge, and then realizes that, or then Damien and I think, and this is more Damien's theory, so I'm about to pass this over to him.
Sure.
He thinks that maybe the Druids are the source of this knowledge, and the Druids are...
They're from Britain. They're up north. They're in the island across the ocean, and no Roman has really been there. He sends an advance party there, but doesn't get the guy back for a while. So it's kind of an odd thing, and they're remote, and so he's going to have to go and explore that. Before I get there, now I want to just go back to that first and last battle with Ariovistus. It's in Book 1 of Caesar. It's around chapter 52. And Rex found this wonderful quote. He says, "Throwing aside their javelins, our men fought with swords hand to hand." So normal thing is you throw javelins as you advance, and then you just go in and you meat grinder them. But they were found very many of our soldiers who leaped upon the phalanx, and with their hands tore away the shields and wounded the enemy from above. If you're a Roman in the Forum, this is like the climactic battle. You're just
this sounds like a scene out of Michael Bay.
Yeah,
Really, this is
awesome.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
So
If you're in the Senate, you're a former soldier,
yeah.
and you're sitting there going, "Oh,
Why
why?"
are we doing that?
So
Okay, so how much of this is him sending a code to the Senate, and how much of this is him doing like Shakespeare did and playing to the groundlings?
the answer
have
is
any way of
yes.
reading? Okay, porque no los dos.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Why not both?
Okay.
So,
All right.
because he is doing that, like,
Okay,
and
well.
And in so doing, here's the fun part. He is both saving Rome and putting them in his pocket. Like, he is increasing his legend and also letting the Senate know, like, this is a bad problem. It's a good thing you've got me up here, though. And so there's obvious propaganda.
Okay.
But it's also very much like, no, this is a real problem.
Okay.
And it might be why Pompey and Crassus didn't go up to help him, but did send relatives and friends with them. Because Crassus's son serves under Caesar for a while, which is kind of a return because Caesar served under Crassus at first.
Crassus, yeah.
And Pompey, of course, is married to Caesar's daughter, and so he's going to send advisors to protect his father-in-law, who's 10 years his younger. Or so.
Yeah.
So it's weird.
Yeah. Well, Romans.
But it's worth pointing out that there has never been an account of a war as extensive as this one.
Yes.
And this is a sort of unique literary moment for Roman history. And that, too, I think, suggests that this is an enemy that was unlike other enemies that Rome had to fight.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And Caesar wants to memorialize that
Yes.
and yet not...
Well, he can't
let
straight
out
out.
the real truth.
How crazy would it sound if he just came out straight and said, we're fighting a horde of the undead?
Right.
Yes.
Anybody who believed him would immediately panic. And
Right.
everybody else would just think he was crazy.
Right.
Bat nuts.
Right.
So,
So he has to thread the needle between building his own reputation,
Exactly.
Having it sound like Rome is as invincible as ever,
Yeah.
and yet alerting those who understand how grave this threat really is.
Okay.
Or
That's
how.
the genius of it. Or that's
Yeah.
why
Or,
you have to...
how out of the grave.
Thank you.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
You started to make a remark, and I knew where you were going.
Yeah.
With it.
I like it.
Yeah.
I dug it.
Sir, I say good day.
So we're going to fast forward from that battle to the 4th year. So he's gone around smacking around on the Gauls.
Yeah.
Runs across the river, thinks that he's going after. Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, no, just to stress again. So not all the campaigns of Caesar are against undead opponents.
No.
Some
Right.
of them really are just, these are the Belgians and I fought them and it was like this.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have to look for the clues where you can say, these are the episodes that really matter.
Okay.
So in book 4 of Caesar, so this is 4 years into the battle, right? Book 4. I'm blanking on what year that would be. That would be 55.
5.
Yeah,
He starts
55.
in 58.
Yeah, so 55. So in book 4, Caesar goes to Britain, right? And the reason he goes to Britain is because he's heard things. And he's trying to find the source. He sees these zombies thing as, it's got to have a source. And there's rumors of men in Britain who are blue. And they don't eat rabbits, geese, or other types of animals. Okay. Very strange. Even though these are animals that are all around them. And he's also heard this rumor of this group of people called the Druids. And they have religious practices. And I talked about this earlier. Now, the Druids and all of Gaul seem to have taken the Greek gods and kind of shuffled them around a bit. The chief god amongst the Druids is Dis. And that's the god of death.
Yes.
Hades for the Greeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So he's like, oh, okay, well, they worship death. Necromancy. The undead.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
He thought it was the Germani. But then he's like, well, I haven't heard from them in a while. And Ariovistus was about 3 years ago. And there's not been any real zombie stuff in that time. So he goes to Britain to try to ferret it out. Because it's still a threat that's looming on the horizon.
Okay.
He gets to Britain, but he runs into the Britons, who show none of the same tactics that the Germani showed.
Well, no, they were chariot fighters.
Yes, and they're way too intelligent, way too human. They're too nimble. They're charioteers. He writes about them. He says that they, and all my quotes here are in Latin. So he says, I might have it in English over here, that they throw their weapons and generally break the ranks of the enemy, and with the very dread of their horses and the noise of their wheels, they do this. They're shock troops, right?
Yeah.
And we know that chariots are inefficient weapons, but they're a crew weapon,
Yeah.
That's what makes them amazing.
Yeah.
You can't do that with zombies. And then he says, and they run along the pole and stand on the yoke, and thence betake themselves with the greatest celerity to their chariots again.
Yeah.
Which I used to think they're backflipping, but really they could just jump up and the chariot keeps going and then they fall.
Oh yeah. Well,
still amazing.
Speaking as a Celtophile, one of the stories that you wind up hearing from Celtic sources, Celtic legend and myth that was held onto by the Irish. Spoiler alert: I know what happens in Britain, and Ireland is the only place. Anyway, I don't want to give it away for anybody who doesn't know. But they talked about these heroic feats that their charioteers, the drivers and the warriors equally were able to do, and it was a big deal socially for status and all these kind of things to be one of these guys. Yeah. And talking about how nimble and how fast moving they were, it was their tactic that the warrior would jump off of the chariot as they broke the line. They would jump off of the chariot. They would fight. They would try to gather as many heads of the enemy as they could. Yes. Okay, I just had a thought about that. And then carrying the heads in one hand and with their sword or one of their swords in the other, they would then have to run to catch up to their own chariot and jump on it as it turned around and wheeled back through the line to their own side.
Running headlong.
Yes. Sir, my second shall contact you directly.
So Caesar gets up there, and he sees no evidence of this. He can't find the elusive druids. Nothing's conclusive. He does find a bunch of dishonest Britons, by the way, like everyone has.
Yeah,
but he finds them, and he demands hostages, and they hem and haw, and they lie to him, and so he's like, all right, I'll be back. And he gets to explore for a while. He smacks them around. He doubles his demand for hostages. He goes back home, goes back to Gaul. Still no source of zombies, but he also didn't get a chance to fully explore Britain, so he'll be back the next year.
He also learns that the Druids don't write anything down.
Right.
Everything is transmitted orally. Yep. And they run a sort of school where recruits come for a certain amount of time.
20 years.
Till they've learned all the Druid magic.
Yes.
Yeah. So this instills in him that if there is a source of learning that might be related to these dark arts, then the Druids still seem like the most likely source. Yeah. So he's got to go back to Britain and keep looking.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he knows that. And so... And also the fact that they don't send all the hostages makes him wonder, why are they so willing to be dishonest to me, Caesar? So one problem that he hopes to confront was that full moon issue. He doesn't get to it in book 4. And actually, interestingly, in book 5, so now we're in 54. I don't do math backwards very well.
54.
54. Yes. Okay. So now we're in book 54, or we're in year 54 BCE. In book 5, it's the only time that Caesar stays the winter in Gaul. Every other time he's gone back to Italy. This time he stays in Gaul. So there's a shift there to me. So, like, you see some exploratory commissions being set up, and stuff like that in book 4. But we've seen nothing for 3 years. So it's kind of running dry. And then in book 5, it's a real shift. He stays the winter. There's this group of people up north called the Treveri. And they pique his interest, but he's still dead set on the source being in Britain. Were you gonna?
No.
Oh, okay. And the Treveri is this group that doesn't come to the general council that he calls, and they border on the Rhine. Now he's still thinking it's in Britain. It's got to be in Britain. It's got to be in Britain. I swear it's in Britain. They're blue. It's got to be in Britain.
Now, did he actually encounter anybody? Any of the Pictish? Undoubtedly Pictish, says the Scot at the table, who were the source of the blue people.
He mentions them as being in Kent.
Yeah,
and that there's a triangle in the middle of the island, and they use tin, and they don't use gold or any normal metals for currency. They use rings.
Okay.
But it seems to me, and he even talks about, kind of alludes to Woad a bit, but also he doesn't know much about these things. I don't know that he's ever encountered them, though. Yeah. Does he actually?
I don't think so. I think it's what he hears, but
from the Britons.
He never says that he saw any blue.
Yeah. So he figures that since he beat the Germans in book 1, right, that the leader of the Treviri is a guy named Indutio Maros. He figures Indutio Maros is overreacting when he comes to Caesar going, there's Germans on the Rhine. This is a problem. And he's like, nah. You know what? Give me your hostages. And Indutio Maros begs him to address the zombie problem in his territory. And Caesar shuts him up. And he instead says, you know what? Give me all your leaders. And I'm going to put this guy named Cingetorix in charge of your tribe. And I'm going to take all your leaders to Britain to show you that I know where the zombies are sourced. Locally sourced.
Yeah, well, you need organic, locally
Exactly.
sourced parts. Kind of by default.
Yeah.
But,
And he's certain of this. And here's the kicker. He's wrong. And he doesn't say I was wrong. But you see there's a shift after about 6 or 7 books in. And one of the reasons that he's wrong is like he really flubs it here a couple times and maybe even opens the floodgates by accident because he takes the leaders away from the Belgae. The Belgae are one of the toughest tribes. Mm-hmm. They punch the Germans when they come across the Rhine. Mm-hmm. The Helvetii used to punch the Germans when they came across the Rhine down south. And so it's just like, whack-a-mole with the Germans. So he takes them with him. He even takes like I said, he takes a lot of leaders with him. He leaves his favorite guy of, I'd say, the entire Gallic Wars, Labanus.
Okay.
Which is so fun because Labanus in the Civil Wars gets roasted by Caesar. Because Caesar thinks Labanus is just so loyal to him. He's the best soldier he's ever had, etc., etc. Like, outshines Mark Antony. Mark Antony barely gets mentioned at all in these wars. But Labanus is just getting high praise the whole time. Later on, when he crosses the
Rubicon.
Yeah, the Rubicon, Labanus is like, I can't go with you. I'm sorry. No. I'm loyal to Rome, not to you. And Caesar's just so hurt by that he spends 3 chapters.
So offended, sir.
Hugely.
Yeah,
He spends 3 chapters in his Civil Wars just roasting Labanus about what a traitor he is. Yeah. And,
wow.
Oh, he gets so catty. Caesar.
So what we're saying here is Caesar, in fact, showed signs of narcissistic personality disorder.
A little bit. He is a messy bitch.
Okay.
He really is. He really is.
Okay, I'd like to just
Yeah.
interrupt here and say, actually, what Caesar claims is that all the Britons dye themselves with woad. Mm-hmm. Vitrum is the word, which makes their appearance in battle more terrible.
Yeah.
So he makes it sound like a regular battle with the Britons involves large numbers of blue people.
Mm-hmm. All right. Okay.
So, yeah.
So it isn't just the picks.
So
It's all in.
All right. Well,
It's
there we are
Britannia.
then.
That is chapter 14 of book 5.
There you go.
Since I have the text.
Yeah.
Because we're working from the evidence.
Yes,
we are.
consistently.
100%.
I'm really impressed.
Going
with
from the actual Latin.
with the hard evidence that you've brought to bear here.
So he leaves Labanus, who, by the way, is the most experienced zombie hunter of all his men. Who he leaves him lots and lots of horses, because one thing you need against zombies is speed. They've got the numbers, you've got the speed. Yeah, because you're going to go lopping off heads.
Swinging downward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he leaves him horses so that you can also have communication across vast areas.
Yeah.
In case you get wiped out.
Yeah.
Caesar makes it back to Britannia again. He figures out the sources in Kent. He figures this out according to himself. Again, these are the weird people that don't eat rabbits, chickens, or geese. Mm-hmm. And turns out the blue men actually did just paint themselves.
Okay.
Darn it, it's not the source. And then he leaves. Like, pretty shortly thereafter. Okay, cool. I'm going to grab some hostages, and then we're going to take off. Brings Indutio Maros and everyone back. I'm sure it was like one of the most uncomfortable rides back because he knows he's wrong. He can't admit that he's wrong, But he's largely uninterested.
I could just picture some sub-chief in the back of the wagon. Awkward.
Yeah. Are we going to tell him? Are you going to tell him? I'm not going to tell him.
The Romans don't go back to Britain for 100 years.
Yeah.
So
it's not
that's
until
how long
Claudius.
it was.
That's
and when they do, by the way, they end up just killing all the druids.
They eradicate the druid. That was the spoiler I didn't want to give away.
Yeah.
Is they wind up not only do they wind up wiping the druids out, they wind up committing historical character defamation creating. Well, her too,
Yeah.
but many of the things that they wind up writing about the Druids and Druidic practices, we strongly suspect now were just complete fabrications to make them look bloodthirsty, primitive, and more violent and terrible than they actually were.
Or they're drawing on the memories of what Caesar had left for them.
Granted,
That these people,
Granted.
So
Caesar says that they build these sort of wicker statues in human forms and fills them with living people and burns them alive.
Yes,
This is what Druids do.
Yeah, that's yeah.
like you do.
Like
now,
but I wonder if there are sources to corroborate that, or if that really is Caesar becoming legend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean the
advantage of writing stuff.
Yeah, and the post-Victorian studies of what we found seems to indicate that one way or another that was at the very least an exaggeration, possibly fabrication. In regard to Druidic practices, I think it's interesting that might be conflating whatever might have been done by whoever you guys have pinned as being the source of this. That kind of sacrifice might be part of the necromancy involved in this whole thing.
Could be.
So attempting to conflict, to try to make himself sound like, well, I didn't really fuck up that badly because they were still doing this thing.
Right.
Turns out it was,
And it's entirely possible because when they talk about the Wicker Man, and we're jumping ahead a bit, when they talk about the Wicker Man, they fill them with the lowest types of people first, and then when they run out of those, if they haven't filled it all the way to the top, then they throw whoever they can. Now that's Caesar talking about it, but it's people whose lives have no value, and even slaves have value in Rome.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't just throw slaves in, but you might if they had gotten bitten, and the only way to get rid of them.
Fill up the whole statue.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that they got it all 100% right. Maybe this was, okay, we're going to put it in the form of the first zombie that we ever saw. It's a Wicker Man that looks like that. It's teeming with zombies. And we're going to burn it to appeal to the gods. The first and worst explanation of most things.
Yeah.
So, there you go. So he comes back from Britain and calls a general council of all the northern Gauls. And he tells them what's going on. He says, the source is not Britannia. I was wrong. It's not Britannia. And when he shows up, they're in northern and central Gaul. He finds out that there's a famine in the territory of the Eburones. And he uses this as his excuse to spread out the legions. Now, here's the kicker. If you spread out your legions, you are not eating all the grain from one area and forcing those people to attack you.
Okay.
This is true.
Yeah.
So spreading it out, everybody's going to get a 20% pay cut instead of this one group that'll spark a rebellion. But at the same time, you spread them all out. Now you have mobility, and you have a much wider net that you've cast to try to find the source of these zombies. And so this way, he has a very mundane explanation for why he's doing it.
Yeah.
Lack of grain. But he also has a very understandable, plausible reason for why he has to be everywhere.
All at once.
So that he can find this.
Okay.
And he stays the winter to make sure. In fact, they even use the words certior factus est in Hiberna, which is he is informed while in winter camps. But certior means to be made more certain.
Okay.
So it's much more with that. Now he's racked with doubt and worry. He'd been wrong about the source, and he knows that Indutio Maris wasn't overreacting now. Sorry, buddy. I was wrong. You were right. Let's get this working right. And now he thinks that anything might be the source, though. So now he's swinging quite the other way.
Yeah, he's paranoid.
Exactly.
Okay.
He sends a guy named Plancus to investigate a murder. There's a guy named Tascetius who gets murdered, who'd been a king of his region for 3 years under Caesar, basically. Caesar comes in. Okay. He'd helped Caesar, allied himself with Caesar, and he's like, all right, great, you're our guy. And then he gets murdered. And he says, Plancus, he says, go figure it out. Go find out what happened and bring me people and question them. He's basically saying, was this political or was it murder? It was political. It was 100% political.
All right.
Now, Indutio Maris warns another guy named Ambiorix. Ambiorix is warned about the zombies. Now, Ambiorix just gave grain to the Romans. Just gave it to him. and he realizes that he needs the grain back. So the plot thickens here. And so, because they need to be able to fight off the Germanic horde that's coming their way. And so he goes, here's his plan. He's going to go and get the grain from the Romans. Now, I don't know that he wanted to go attack the Romans who are set up in his territory. But I do know that his own people insist on it because he says so. He knows that the attack will fail, though. He knows this. But Ambiorix's tribe works in such a way that he has just as much power over the people as they have over him. It's very similar to a pirate captain, I guess.
Okay, yeah. Rules by prestige and...
Exactly. During a battle,
persuasion.
I will lead us. Yeah. After the battle, we'll all decide.
Okay.
You know? He knows he's going to fail. He leads them into failure, and then immediately asks for parley. And he says... He tells them flat out, we need your help. Now... there's a sentence that Caesar uses in Book 5, Chapter 26, and he puts the words for grain and Indutiamaris in the same sentence. So they are close enough to each other that you're like, okay, this is what's going on. These are the priorities. Okay. Now, Ambiorix is 100% genuine in his plea. Everything that he says is absolutely true. He says that essentially... there is a big horde of Germans coming across the Rhine. They will be here in 2 days. Now, where they are that's a hell of a hard march to get across the Rhine and then over to there in 2 days. He says they're going to march all day and all night. They're going to be here in 2 days. And so either you can leave voluntarily or they will kill you here. And he promises them safe passage through his territories. And he means it 100%, I think. And Rex and I have kind of come to this conclusion that he actually is on the side of the Romans, but he absolutely needs the grain for his people. And Caesar's not there, so he can't talk directly to him, but he can talk to Caesar's lieutenants, Cotta and Sabinus, and he talks to them about it, and he says, now I'm going to go off and try to hold them back. You get out of here, and whatnot. And I'm sorry that we attacked you. It's just our custom, and as you can see, I knew that we wouldn't win. He even says, I knew that we wouldn't win. You know that I knew that. I even know one of your friends. He knows that I knew that. And he's dropping all the cred that he can on this. Mm-hmm. And he says, but they're coming. Okay.
Can I just intervene there?
Please.
But so he knows that large horde of Germans is coming.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And he's afraid. You know, this is the kind of enemy that you double cross the Romans for.
Yeah.
So again, we're seeing the clues that this is not the normal battle that we're having. And Caesar has already, as David explained, spread his men across the landscape, sort of anticipating that the moment has come. So the reason to focus on the failed expedition to Britain, I think, is because there was sort of a void back in Gaul, and once Caesar returns, he realizes the trap that he's going into. And there's a very oblique mention of the fact that news has been received that Ariovistus is dead.
Okay.
But what could that mean?
Okay.
Back to Damien.
Yeah, well, actually, that is the end of our episode for this week. So we're going to leave you on a cliffhanger.
Well, shit.
I'm sorry. But it'll make it much more exciting to listen to the next episode. I strongly recommend, by the way, that you listen to these episodes in sequence. You're a monster if you listen to the second episode first. It just doesn't make any sense. Yeah. But, Rex, thank you for being a part of this episode.
Very welcome.
And I look forward to your collaboration on the next episode coming up next week.
Great to have the chance to explain this
Absolutely.
out loud.
And, yeah, it really is nice to give it breath and to allow it to actually,
Yeah, I can understand how having discovered something like this, it would just drive one batty.
Yeah,
not being able to.
It's driven me to
share
puns. Really, that's the reason.
No, it's based in evidence.
Yes,
right?
it is evidence.
It's based in evidence.
It is.
Well, it totally
It's not
is.
just puns. It may drive you to puns.
Yes. But the evidence is clearly there, and we'll get into the grammar of the evidence next week as well, because there is an actual grammatic component to this that is compelling as all get out. But for right now,
yes.
What's your takeaway so far?
It's really hard to say. I'm still kind of flabbergasted.
Do you want to just hold off until next
Yeah,
week?
I think holding off until we have the whole totality
Sure.
of the story and the
Sure.
evidence and everything.
Absolutely.
I think is definitely worth it.
Okay. Well, since we've got a guest here, I'm going to put everybody on the spot.
Okay.
So, Rex, are there any books that you can recommend that you've just been enjoying lately? They don't have to pertain to the subject at hand, but any book that you've really enjoyed in the last couple months that you've gotten to read?
No. I read scholarship that is actually unpleasant even for nerds.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, way to encourage folks to go into academia.
Kids, if you want to enjoy reading, don't become an expert.
Don't become a professor.
No. When you read academic books for a living,
Uh-huh.
it drains the joy of reading.
Oh, Lord.
There are limits to this.
Well, then we're going to help you. We're going to recommend books to you.
Okay.
Ed, what books would you recommend?
It's interesting. I'm doing this as part of my job, but I am teaching currently for my orphan English section, Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. And number one, it is incredibly trenchant to the historical moment we're living in a lot of ways. And number two, I had forgotten, because it had been years since I'd picked the book up, and I had forgotten how lyrical Bradbury's prose is.
And you are a very appreciative person of such things. You're a poet yourself.
I'm a prose whore.
Yeah.
No. If you can make the words look pretty on the page and sound pretty to the ear, then you're halfway there with me.
It's really tragic he never learned Latin, isn't it? It really is.
But yeah, and Bradbury manages to be beautifully poetically symbolic.
Yeah.
In an awful lot of things that he describes, and it's absolute. It's thrilling to read on the page, and the sad part is that, of course, I'm teaching it at the 8th grade level, and trying to get 8th graders to understand poetic metaphor is the kind of thing that would make one actually hate it. It would drain the joy out of it.
You can't force it. You cannot explain it.
Yeah.
It has to be felt.
And I have in a class of, I want to say I got 32. I've got about 3 who clearly are grooving on it. I've got about 25 who are sitting through it like 8th graders would, and I've got about whatever the remainder is. I can't do the math right now.
You think a 9th grade audience, a 10th grade audience is more appropriate?
I think it would be easier to do in American Lit in the 11th grade.
That makes sense.
I think at that level there would be a bit more sophistication. They would not quite be operating strictly off of the amygdala as much as 7th and 8th graders do, which is a whole topic I can go on forever about neurological development in the middle school grades.
Yes.
But I think they would be better able to appreciate it at that point. So, Damien, you just took a moment while I was waxing, pedantic about developmental neurology to go grab a book off the shelf. What do you got there?
I just couldn't remember the author's name. I was going to recommend, given the topic at hand, and also because Rex is suffering through mind-numbing literature, I would recommend Max Brooks' World War Z.
Son of Mel.
Yeah, son of Mel Brooks.
Son of Mel Brooks.
Wow.
Yeah. Who really studied epidemiology a bit to write this book. He did a lot of background research on just how diseases spread and things like that. It's fascinating. The wonderful thing about this book is that it's in the style of after it's done, this guy's going back and interviewing people who lived through it. And so each chapter is only a couple pages long. So if you ever need an eye break from what you're doing, this is where it's at. Because it's like you just get maybe 2 or 3 interviews in, and you're like, wow, this is really good. And then you can put it down, and you don't feel like you're in the middle of a chapter, So I recommend World War Z by Max Brooks. It's a fun read. It's a quick read, and it's episodic enough that putting it down and coming back to it a month later, you haven't lost much. So it's really good, and there's some really fun stories in it. That's what I would recommend.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Why don't we plug our pluggables? On Twitter, you can find us at Geek History Time. You can find me at DuhHarmony, DUH Harmony.
Yeah. And I'm at EH Blaylock.
Yeah. And you are an academic, so I presume you have no presence whatsoever in the social media sphere.
Digital
Correct.
sphere. All right.
Lucky man.
Fortunate man.
I just get to come in as a guest.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then disappear again.
And
Right.
then
Into the mists. Okay, well, for Ed Blaylock, I'm Damian Harmony, and thank you to our guest, Rex Stem,
Thank you.
for joining us. And until next time.
Keep rolling 20s.